Well, shares of Eli Lilly are surging after the company beat street estimates in second quarter results. It also raised its full year guidance. Revenue coming in at $8.31 billion, adjusted earnings per share, $2.11. The pharmaceutical company saw about $1 billion of its second quarter revenue from new products driven by that blockbuster weight loss and type 2 diabetes drug, Mounjaro. Joining us now, Lee Brown, ThirdBridge Global Sector Lead for Healthcare. And boy, this has been an interesting space for investors and journalists like us to watch lately, this whole diabetes/weight loss emerging space. Talk to us about what it has meant for Eli Lilly and how important it could be going forward.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's wonderful to be here. Certainly a very strong quarter. When you look at the market's reaction, the stock's up over 15% when I last checked. That's really remarkable given its market cap. You're talking over $74 billion of incremental market cap created just this morning. As you mentioned, worldwide sales were roughly $8.3 billion. You're talking about a 28% year-over-year increase. For a company of this size, that's truly impressive. Investors are happy. I think it is important to note that that growth was driven not by just Mounjaro, but a collection of drugs that are performing well. We've got Verzenio, Jardiance, and Taltz. This is not even talking about the potential of donanemab, which is their Alzheimer's candidate. So really firing on all cylinders at Lilly.
And your specialists have some excitement around Verzenio. Explain that and walk us through that excitement and why this could potentially impact and have a good contribution to sales trajectory.
Yeah, I hate to jump off the GLP Mounjaro chain so soon. Well, I know we'll get back to it, but Verzenio is what's called a CDK inhibitor, and we're seeing a lot of use in adjuvant care. So it treats advanced or metastatic breast cancer. It's continuing to post strong growth. It was up nearly 58% year over year in Q2, sales close to $930 million. That compares to first half sales of nearly 60%. So this is a drug that not only is producing a blockbuster type of revenue, but growing at north of 50% in the quarter.
I do want to circle back, indeed, as you expected, to these diabetes, obesity drugs, because, of course, there was also the news today from Novo Nordisk that a study of its treatment, Wegovy, also cut the risk of heart attack and stroke by, 20% in a study. We know Mounjaro is undergoing a similar study here. Given that we have already seen the sales that we have seen for this class of products, studies like this, how much more of a boost could we see?
Well, I think what's interesting is we have a huge market opportunity. There's somewhere north of 650 million people globally that could benefit from GLP-1s, either through a type 2 diabetes indication or through what they like to call weight management. So this is certainly helpful. And I think what's really exciting is payers are getting on board. Something like 73% of prescriptions were covered in Q2. This shows that this is being embraced. It's not something that's looked at as sort of a failure. In terms of, hey, you need to get out and exercise. This is looked at as a helpful medication to get people healthy again and ultimately save healthcare system dollars. I think what's interesting when you mentioned the cardiovascular risk reduction, that's one of the things that's been benefiting Jardiance, one of Lilly's other type 2 drugs. It's performing really well. Its Q2 sales were nearly $670 million. That was up 45%, and in large part, in my view, in our specialist view, due to the reduced risk of cardiovascular death in patients not only with type 2 diabetes, but with chronic heart failure, what they call CHF. So it'll be interesting to see as they progress with Mounjaro whether they'll demonstrate a similar effect. I suspect it will.
And for someone who is a layperson on all of this, Lee, do they reduce this heart risk because they are taking people's weight off, or are they also sort of more directly addressing the things that cause heart attack risk in the body?
It's a great question. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you that their next gen GLP-1 that they're already working on, which is exciting, retatrutide, that demonstrated mean weight reduction of up to 24% at 48 weeks. Where am I going with this? That was in their phase 2 trial. They're going to move it into a series of phase 3 studies called Triumph. And what's interesting about this is they're not only going to evaluate the safety and efficacy in chronic weight management, but also obstructive sleep apnea and as far as knee osteoarthritis. So you can imagine this is more of a weight reduction class effect when you think of the benefit of retatrutide potentially working for sleep apnea and osteoarthritis.
Is there anything that you see coming down the pike that could slow down the growth of these drugs? There has been a little bit of a sort of cultural backlash, right? But is there anything meaningful that could happen?
I'd actually think the cultural reaction has been one that's been embraced. There was an article just this morning in my inbox discussing whether to lose just a fair amount of weight or a light amount of weight was okay in the use of GLP-1. So, and you look at the reimbursement coverage coming along, that was a big question. I think people are on board with this. You're also seeing class effect across drug distributors and also within managed care. Cigna had mentioned the benefit of this through their PBM, their pharmacy benefit manager. McKesson had mentioned it, AmerisourceBergen, both gigantic drug distributors. So everyone's enjoying the benefit of these GLP-1s, and they're creating a healthier society. I don't think we should have negative backlash unless we start to see some safety signals, which we really haven't seen so far.
And just lastly, and super briefly, when we think about regulation around some of the drugs that have been shown to have more weight loss side effects, is there anything that investors should be keeping an eye on, how this is catching the attention, not just of potential customers, but at the same time of some of the regulators?
Yeah, excellent question. And not just regulators, but reimbursement coverage. I think as this class of drugs continues to scale and the amount of healthcare spend it encompasses, there's always going to be pushback on pricing. Senator Bernie Sanders had already talked about this, sending a letter to HHS, Health and Human Services. But these are brand new drugs. They're performing tremendously. They have patent protection, and these companies deserve a fair return for their extraordinary R&D investment to produce these. In terms of regulators, there are GI, gastrointestinal safety warnings, so folks need to pay attention to the warnings. Novo's also looking into some nominal instances of suicidal ideation. Looking at the sort of the safety profile in totality, I'm really not seeing anything to be concerned of at this time. As the drugs are used by more and more people, we might need to focus and see what comes out of that.
Lee, really helpful perspective on all of this. Thank you so much. Lee Brown is ThirdBridge Global Sector Lead for Healthcare.